I'm just worried that Zion's gonna come out from behind me and hit a three. Um, that was something to watch, huh? Spurs fans, I'm sure, glad that this was Zion's first game and Alvin Gentry had to pull him because he scored 17 straight points in the first in the fourth quarter. Uh, I'm gonna try not to kill you guys with Zion coverage because I mean I'm sure you can turn on the TV and get a ton of that. So we'll just start with him quickly. Uh, he is good. Okay, on to the Spurs. No, all right. Yeah, first few quarters it looked like he was sort of getting his bearings out there. Uh, I was watching the ESPN feed because I do like to see the Spurs when they're on national TV. I like to see what the announcers say about them. Um, and you know, I can survive Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, but in the fourth quarter of this game, the Spurs tried a zone, and we saw Zion Williamson zone buster, just drilling wide open threes. Um, and it was ridiculous. Like you would think after the first two, they would be like, okay, maybe we guard him out there, but no. uh, yeah, and Zion does everything. It's not the dunks. I mean, the dunks are special, but he does so many little things that help you win basketball games, and he's going to be a problem for the rest of his career. Uh, I know that some of you were getting your jokes off in the first three quarters of this game. I had one that I was about to send out that was feeling pretty spicy about how he looked like a grill dad who's had like maybe one too many. Uh, Because like the first time he went to the bench in the first quarter, he played 3 minutes. He looked kinda winded, and he looked, like, hobbled as he was walking to the bench. I was like, "Is he hurt?" And then I was like, "Oh, no, that's just how he walks." Uh, so, yeah, but he's a special talent. Um, he's a really special player. Alright, no more Zion. Let's talk about the Spurs because you damn sure know that, uh they're not gonna be talking about the Spurs on ESPN. Alright, LaMarcus Aldridge, 32 and 14 tonight. He just kinda dominated. Um, it was old school, like, he was banging in the post with Derek Favors. Um, and, you know, for most of this year, I have been of the mindset that, he shouldn't be posting up too much, and I don't think he should be posting up too much, but when he has a matchup like this that he can exploit, it makes sense for the Spurs to keep going to him down there, and his shot was on. Um, the thing is, when you're playing like that, it kind of takes DeMar DeRozan out of his rhythm, and DeMar had 20 points in this game, 8 to 16 shooting, but he only had 1 assist. And what we've seen in the past month has been largely pick and roll, pick and pop, dictated by DeMar DeRozan. Um, and sort of playing inside out through that way. Um, and he took more of a back seat in this game because LaMarcus Aldridge had the favorable matchup, um, and he was just killing it. He had 6 offensive rebounds in this game. Um, yeah, yeah, LaMarcus was fantastic. DeMar was okay. Um, you know, definitely not his best game, but I mean, he scored 20 points on 50% shooting. You know, um, DeJounte Murray, an efficient night. He hit a three-pointer off the dribble late in the shot clock. He I think Jordan, the Spurs stats guy, tweeted that this year he has 19 made threes. Uh, his entire to this point, he had 18 threes. Um, So even a little bit hitting and taking those shots, that's a big development for him. And that makes this team a lot more dangerous, if he can space the floor. Derek White has looked very healthy the past 3 games. Um, he was dealing with some nagging foot stuff earlier in the season, and, seems like that's behind him. Um, he's so creative off the dribble, like, I love the way he snakes pick and rolls, I love the way that he operates with the ball in his hands. Um, he had 7 assists tonight, back-to-back games with 7 assists. Um, Only 12 points, but, 4 of 9 shooting, he was efficient. Um, and he played great defense, um, as he does most nights. Uh, we saw a little bit of Lonnie Walker. He caught open in the corner and knocked down a 3. We've been talking about his decision making a lot, his shot selection. The Miami game on Sunday, he forced a lot of drives into the paint, um, and wound up in a lot of misses. Um, and in the past couple games since, I've seen him really be disciplined in his shot selection and take that outside shot when it's available to him. Um, there was a really funny sequence at the end of this game where DeJounte did something wrong. I didn't even see what it was. He had a bad turnover late in the fourth quarter. Um, and Pop literally put Lonnie in the game for 1 second, uh, so that I think it was like a free throw thing. So he put him in for the last free throw so that he could take DeJounte out and scream at him. And then he flipped him again. He was like, "All right, good work, Lonnie. Get back over here." He called a timeout right after the free throw. Uh, so that was funny. Um, let's see. Rudy Gay, um, this is his first game back after missing 3, and he did not look great. He has not looked great for most of the year. Um, Early in the year, I saw him taking a lot of open threes and just bricking everything. Didn't matter how open he was. It seems like the more open he is, the worse the shot's gonna be. Um, and his I'm pretty sure it was his first possession in the game tonight. Um, he caught open at the arc, drove into traffic instead of shooting an open 3, missed short on a tough shot, got the offensive board, and then was just, like, in the paint looking around and got stripped. Um, yeah, yeah, not a great game for Rudy Gay. Definitely a little rust, but, like, I mean, has he been rusty the whole season? I think at this point, he's just kinda old and on the wrong side of an ACL tear or an Achilles tear. Um, Not his best game, not his best season. The decline has been kind of precipitous. That's something the Spurs need to figure out. Um, we gotta talk about Marco and Bryn. Um, 24 minutes for Bryn, 17 minutes for Marco. Um, and, like, they both kinda did their jobs. Um, Bryn had 11 points, 2 of 5 from 3. Marco had hit 3 of his 4 shots tonight, both of his threes. Uh, the shot selection for both of them was a little like, Um, Bryn Forbes, anytime he tried to do anything other than shoot the ball, it was a disaster. There was one time where he caught it in the corner and it just like went right through his hands. Uh, Shortly after that, he drove the lane, was in the middle of the paint, did like a 360 and tried to pass to somebody, and it just went right to the Pelicans. Um, yeah, I don't expect him to do anything good putting the ball on the floor, but he still like surprises me with how bad he can be with that. Um, and neither played any defense, but like we don't expect them to play any defense. We're used to it at this point. We know who they are. Um, and like if they're gonna play, and if Marco's gonna take a leaning 20-footer with 17 seconds left on the shot clock, obviously I'd rather he hit that shot than miss it. And he hit that shot while I was screaming at my TV about what an idiot he was for taking it. Uh, but you know, just one of those things. The lineups down the stretch in this game, there was a little bit of too much of both of them, uh, and the Pelicans went on a run. It's not that I mean, Zion was the main reason for the run, and the Spurs' zone defense just was not a great, uh, answer for it. Um, but, after they took Zion out, the the Pelicans were still, like, right in the game, and there was one particular play where Forbes went to close out on a Josh Hart 3, and he, like he ran right up to him and just stood there like, and you know what? Even if he got a hand up, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference because dude is small, and that's not his fault. No amount of work he puts in the gym is gonna make his wingspan any longer. He is who he is, and who he is not a starting player in the NBA, but that's a discussion that we've had many, many times here. Um, so one kinda big thing that that came out of this win for the Spurs, is they passed Memphis for the 8th seed. They're now a half game up on Memphis for that 8th seed. Obviously, a lot of season to go, but the Spurs have a pretty good shot at making the playoffs this year. Um, like they're not dead yet. They're super not dead yet. As bad as they have been for stretches of this year, as many times as they've lost games, and we have said you can't you can't lose games like this and try to make the playoffs. But here they are. Um, it's, uh, it's weird to see, but, I mean, as they've gradually been figuring out the play style and the rotations, um, neither of which this game I thought were optimal, but, you know, it's like you do what works against the opponent in front of you. Um, but the Spurs have been kind of figuring things out, and, you know, I think that they're gonna make a good run at the playoffs, and they're they're only gonna get better as the year goes on. Um, so I don't really see trades involving DeMar or LaMarcus Aldridge happening. Um, I think the most likely person to go right now is still DeMar Carroll, um, because the whole situation with him this year has been extremely confusing. He's not getting any playing time. He's not even suiting up for the games anymore. Um, and the Spurs signed him for 3 years. So I think there's a good chance that they try to move him and maybe a shooter like Bryn Forbes or Marco Bellinelli before the deadline. Um, because at the end of the day, this roster has too many guys whose only job is to shoot, and they don't really do much else. Like every roster needs 1 or 2 of those guys, but no more than 2. And the Spurs got 3, 4 if you count DeMar DeRozan. I mean, DeMar's offensive game is definitely far more versatile, but defensively, no. Um, that's the main question that this Spurs team needs to answer, I think, is and Patty Mills is like the heart and soul of this team, right? Like you can't move Patty Mills. Um, if you did move Patty Mills, you'd have to get a significant piece for him. Um, there are still questions with this rotation, but you know, win's a win, and these guys as a unit played played really well tonight. The defense, especially in the first half, was excellent. Um, in the third quarter, defense was really good. In the fourth quarter, Zion happened, and the rotations were kind of Um, but Spurs found a way to win this game. Um, and like the Pelicans aren't really out of it either. So especially with adding Zion, like this is a big game for the Spurs. Um, they had to win this game. They took care of business in an incredibly like the environment for this game was ridiculous. It's the debut of the most hyped NBA prospect since LeBron James. Um, like the atmosphere in that building, I'm sure was a lot, and they kind of weathered the storm. And certainly, Alvin Gentry taking Zion Williamson out of the game helped. Uh, I think if he stayed in the game, we're maybe singing a different tune in this post game. But yeah, I'm sure in the future Zion will break Spurs fans' hearts many times over. Um, but tonight was not that night, not yet. Still, I mean, he's so much fun to watch. Like I was at the preseason game that they played in San Antonio, and he played in that game, and I got like I got good seats for that one because I wanted to see him like up close. I wanted to observe the specimen, right? Um, and you know what? They say the camera adds 10 pounds. Like in person, obviously I wasn't like, oh, he's small, but I was like, oh, he's like not as big as I was expecting him to be. Um, but still, he's an absolute freak of a human being, and he's incredibly skilled. It's not just that he's like a freakishly athletic guy. It's not just that we've never seen a dude with a body like his before. It's like even if he was just a guy, like a normal looking guy, with the skills he has, he would be an impressive basketball player. In that package, in that physical package, I mean, the sky's the limit. Um, he is a freak in every conceivable meaning of the word. He's an absolute freak. Maybe not every maybe not every meaning of the word, But point is, kid gets buckets, um, and he's a monster, and he's going to haunt my dreams for many, many nights. Um, and I took a deep sigh of relief that the Spurs escaped that boogeyman on the first night of his career. I know he'll be back, and I know that they're gonna they're gonna be much better when he's playing like 30 minutes a game instead of what, 17 tonight? And I don't think the plan was to let him play for that long in the 4th quarter. Played 18 minutes tonight. And there were multiple times in that run that he made where Alvin Gentry had like another center ready to check in, and then he hit another shot and he was like, "Ugh, I can't sub him out." Uh, and it looked like the run was finally over, and Zion got fouled on a shot. So it was like, "Okay, well, I can't take him out now." And, you know, obviously you wanna win basketball games, you want to, um, compete and you ride the hot hand, but his long-term health is the priority. Um, and yeah, he's gonna be really good. Did I miss any Spurs stuff before I go? I just wanna make sure because I know that, like, you know, you guys did not come for my Zion analysis. Uh, I know you can get that elsewhere, so I just wanna check and make sure. Pirtle, Yak Pirtle, um, he was effective in just 13 minutes tonight. Um, again, it's kind of a mystery that why he isn't playing more. Um, I mean, obviously, Pop doesn't want to put him and Aldridge on the court at the same time, but the way Aldridge has been shooting threes, at least offensively, it makes a little more sense. Um, defensively, you don't want LaMarcus Aldridge playing on the perimeter too much, but I would like to see Yak play a little bit more. Um, that's like my one of my tweaks, one of my only tweaks for tonight. Um, but yeah, solid Spurs win. Um, let's see. Who do they have next? Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. Next game is at home against the Suns on the 24th. Um, and the Spurs are in a stretch of games right now that they need to win because the rodeo road trip is coming and it's gonna suck. Here are the games before the rodeo road trip: home versus Phoenix, home versus Toronto, at Chicago, home versus Utah, home versus Charlotte. Those are 5 big games. Um, if they can win 3 out of those 5, that'll be pretty good. Trade deadline is, early February. I'm not sure the exact date. I gotta check that for you. Um, but it's basically right at the start of the rodeo road trip. And that rodeo road trip looks like at LA Clippers, at LA Lakers, at Portland, at Sacramento, at Denver, at OKC, at Utah, at OKC again. I don't know. I don't know about that. Mm. Well, let's say argument's sake, let's say they win all 5 of these games before the rodeo road trip. That'll bring them to 2 games over 500. What are the odds that they come out of the rodeo road trip playing against playoff teams in 6 of those 8 games What are the odds they come out of that still 500? Not so great, I don't think. Um, the schedule gets significantly easier for the Spurs after that. Um, but yeah, that rodeo road trip is going to be really tough for them. Um, so we'll see. Obviously, I'll take a look at this film. Um, do our best to preview this Phoenix game. Um, like there are not many teams in the West that are like easy wins this year. Just not. And not a single East Coast team, not a single Eastern Conference team in this rodeo road trip. Usually they get a couple. Usually there's an East Coast swing where they can like, you know, play Charlotte and play the Knicks and like, maybe get a win or two. Um, but yeah, I mean, this has been a big stretch of games leading up to the rodeo road trip. Um, since that loss to Milwaukee, Spurs are 6-3 with wins over Milwaukee, Boston, Toronto, Miami. Um, like they they played really well against those teams, against high levels of competition. Um, the big thing is, can they take that on the road consistently? Like we saw them win in Boston and Toronto; those were great. Um, but it's it's something that they are really gonna need to figure out this rodeo road trip because it could get ugly. And you know what? Even if it does get ugly, still not the end of the season. Like the Spurs could have an ugly rodeo road trip and still be in the hunt come March. Pop had a really great first quarter interview in this game. Um, they asked him like, "Man, what do you think of your team's effort in the first half or whatever, first quarter?" He was like, "Hmm, okay, not not great, could be worse." And I was like, "Yeah, that's that's the Spurs season." Ty Yeager had that tweet. It was like, "Yeah, that's the season in one pop quote." Yeah, not bad. Could be worse. Could be better. That's every game the Spurs have played this year. So yeah, they were fortunate to win this one. New Orleans missed a lot of shots, um, and Zion only played 18 minutes, but the Spurs win, and that's fortunate for them. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. Mahalo. Good hanging out with everybody. Uh, I will see you the next time, and as always, go Spurs, go.